ने स्वयं प्रोत्साहन दे करके अनेक मंदिर निर्मित कराए। अधिकांश तो नष्ट भी हो गए हैं, लेकिन जो भी बचे हुए हैं वे भी गौरव गाथा को सुनाने के लिए पर्याप्त हैं। चीनी यात्री इस सिंह ने भी नालंदा के आसपास के मंदिरों का उल्लेख किया है। इतिहास ग्रंथों में देवगढ़ एवं उदयगिरी गुफाओं का भी उल्लेख प्राप्त होता है, जिनका संबंध जैन परंपरा के गौरव को बढ़ाने वाला है। इस ऐतिहासिक भारतीय संस्कृति के गौरव को बढ़ाने वाले कार्यक्रम में जो पुण्यार्जक हैं उनके प्रति सबसे पहले हम उनका अभिनंदन करते हैं। श्री राजकुमार जी ओसवाल, श्री निर्मल भोगीलाल जी मुंबई, स्मृति शेष डॉक्टर धनेश जी की स्मृति में उनका परिवार एवं मातु श्री राजकुमारी सुमेर चंद जी परिवार का हम हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं। इस कार्यक्रम की प्रस्तोत्री डॉक्टर पवन कुमार जी का, जिनका अथिक परिश्रम एवं पूरे जीवन के अध्ययन का फल हमें प्राप्त हो रहा है, हम सभी श्रोताओं की तरफ से उनका हार्दिक अभिनंदन करते हैं। जूम एवं यूट्यूब से जुड़े हुए सभी प्रबुद्ध श्रोतागण, जिनके कारण से हमारा उत्साह बढ़ रहा है, उनका भी हम हार्दिक अभिनंदन करते हैं। और अभी हम मंच मैडम को दे रहे हैं, और जो ज्योति भाई अगर आ गए हो तो हम उनको 1-2 मिनट के लिए निवेदन करेंगे। कंफर्म करेंगे क्या ज्योति भाई आए हुए हैं क्या? तो मैं उनसे अंत में 2 शब्द सुनने के लिए इच्छुक रहूंगा, और मैडम से, क्योंकि विषय थोड़ा देर हो जाती है बाद में, तो उनसे मैं निवेदन करूंगा कि आज अपने मुख्य विषय की को हम लोगों से उपकृत करें सर।
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And everybody, welcome back. Yes. Right. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Yeah. So everybody can see, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. As he was just mentioning, we are talking about Gupta period, जो स्वर्णिम काल है ना, about Indian art, culture, architecture, literature, astronomy, everything. So, in fact, the Gupta period that we are talking about today produced, huge scholars such as Kalidas, Aryabhat, Varamihir, Vishnu Sharma, Vatsyayan. In fact, they made great advancements in many academic fields in that sense. Science and political administration reached new heights in this period during Gupta era. And there were strong trade ties also that made the, very important cultural center and set the region up as a base that would influence nearly, all the nearby kingdoms for that matter, and regions such as Burma, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, etc. So the earliest available Indian epics also are thought to have been written, in written text, they are, committed to this period, it is said. Okay. So whenever there is stability in any kingdom, that is when the art and culture, they really, flourish to their maximum. So the high points of this cultural activity are magnificent architecture, sculptures, paintings. We have Ajanta paintings, Bagh paintings, belonging to this particular period. Not necessarily Gupta period. Vakatakas were actually, they had a marital, partnership, in fact. So the Ajanta or the Bagh paintings we attribute to the Vakataka rulers, which were, in fact, the daughter of the Guptas was married into the Vakataka family. Okay. So in that sense, Kalidas calls this period of Guptas as the Roop Satra. Roop means beauty. And he also goes on to say, Na Rupam Pap Vrittaye. What does it mean? Beauty without sin is art. So the philosophy behind any art or literature is that beauty without sin. the confluence of speech with thought and physical beauty, right? Okay. And so for this to happen, the beauty or the purity of inner self is also very, very important. Okay. So if you look at the, say, Padmapani at Ajanta, he's absolutely meditative, everything, but at the same time, very, very sensuous. He is physical beauty at its best. All right. So when we are looking at any bodhisattva figure, in fact, from Gupta period, there is no, although the figure is very, very sensuous, it does not evoke that kind of, sensuality in you because of the meditative figure, meditative qualities also that it, simultaneously exhibits. Okay. Now, this much about the Gupta period. So now, but we are more concerned about the earliest extant surviving structural temples, which are present in C2. Now, I'm purposely using one technical term here as C2, SITU. What does it mean? Which means at the site, when I say something is present in C2, which means it is still extant there, okay, where the original place is, it is still intact there, okay. So quite a few number of these Gupta temples we find in C2, and in fact, some of them also have inscriptions which indicate, their approximate timeline, or based on the stylistic, consideration, they are assigned a timeline. Okay. So we are looking at Sachi temple number 17. Now, some of us may, worry as to why the number is 17. Does that have any significance? Not at all. So the number that has been ascribed to this temple is purely, it is given by Archaeological Survey of India. Okay, probably it was the number of excavation or, the find, in fact, I would say that. So that's how these numbers are allocated. Secondly, when I said that stylistic consideration, so how the temple is made, what kind of sculptures are there, what kind of architecture is there, all, because they all point to a particular time period, that during that period, during that era, a certain style was being followed. All right. And that's why even in the absence of inscriptions, sometimes we are able to assign a certain timeline. Then two things we need to know before we proceed. Some of us may have studied Natya Shastra also. So there are two kinds of natyas, or whatever, the acting also, or the costume, everything. So most probably, basically they are Lok Dharmi and Natya Dharmi. Lok Dharmi is which is very, very close to reality, and Natya Dharmi is something which is stylized, which does not occur in nature as it is being presented. It is kind of stylized. So same thing we find in sculptures also. Sometimes they will be very close to reality, just like how we have sculptures from Greek art. Yeah, they actually present, they are very, very close to reality. Whereas in Indian art, most of the art that we are confronted with, it is mostly, I would say, stylized or Natya Dharmi. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So this is the ground plan I'm trying to show you of the temple. Very, very simple. The very basic that we spoke about, one garbhagriha and one open porch or a portico or a mukhamandap, whatever that you can call it. This is the open portico in here. And as you enter, there is a square garbhagriha. Very, very, humble dimensions, almost, I think, 8 feet by 8 feet, something like that. And I also want you to learn to read the ground plan or the elevation. So when we are looking at these four, what are these supposed to be? They correspond to these four pillars that we are seeing here in this picture here, and these two here at the back here, right? These correspond to these two pillars here. Now, we will not call them pillars. Why? How are they different? How this particular structure is different from here? It is different because these are freestanding, and whereas this one side, the back side of it, is engaged with the wall. Okay. So such kind of pillars are called pilasters. Okay. So don't confuse this with plaster. Plaster is something quite different that we put on the wall just before when we are getting a house painted or any building painted. That's called a plaster. And this is a pilaster, P-I-L. All right. So this is the engaged pillar, and these are freestanding pillars. So we have 4 freestanding pillars and 2 engaged pillars at the back, which are the pilasters. And this is the open Mukhamandap, and you are entering from here. And this is, of course, the main door. And these are of course, here I'll show you the lintel here and the Dwar Shakhas here. And this is the side elevation that you're looking at. And the 2 lions sitting on top, a bell-shaped capital here. And these lions-shaped, here, these 2 adorced lions, adorced means they are sitting back to back, right? And this bell capital, or it's also called the loti form, or the capital in the form of lotus petal, that's called the loti form. So now when we are looking at these pillars, it starts with square, then it becomes, 8-sided, 16-sided, and likewise it increases. And then again, it becomes a square here. And on top of that, you have a tree in between and 2 lions sitting, back to back. And similarly, 2 lions will be seen at the backside also, right? So in fact, there are a lot of British archaeologists and art historians who have worked on Gupta temples: Alexander Cunningham, J.C. Harley, Percy Brown, Joanna Williams, etc., etc. Okay, these are some of the people who have worked. Okay, so this is the oldest Gupta temple, perfectly preserved, in fact, and very, very, I would say, restrained in decoration, with the very, perfect square, perfect articulation, I would say, very, very modest dimension, 8 feet by 8 feet, internally the garbhagriha is almost, and flat roof, no superstructure, just the 2 units that we are looking at right now. Okay, so most of the primary functions that we had assigned to the temple building are all being performed by these 2 particular units of the temple. Pillars are very, very simple with a bell and adorned lions. We've already spoken about it. Or in fact, similar, these pillars should also remind you of the Mauryan pillars, right? From the region of Bihar, Sarnath, Rampurva pillar, capital is there. Then Nandanvan is there, Sankisha is there. So these also bear a lot of influence from the Mauryan art that has come down to, especially these bell capitals, which are exactly, and this bead and reel motif that we have on top of the capitals. Yeah. Okay. And also one more important thing is, because inside the garbhagriha there is no icon which we have found. So sometimes few people also ascribe it to a kind of a Buddhist temple. All right. But again, if you look at other Buddhist chaityas of this time, normally this kind of a square garbhagriha and a mukh mandap you don't normally find in a Buddhist chaitya. They have, I showed you that Karla caves, they have normally that apsidal kind of structure. Okay. And because there is no image also on the Lalat Bimb, right, or on the lintel, that we cannot come to know about the dedication of the temple. Then we come to the next temple, which is the Tigawa temple, which is near Jabalpur. So basically, we are all talking about between 400 to 600. This is the timeline that we are talking about. It is probably it is dedicated to Vishnu, because of some of the sculptures that we have found inside this. And in fact, it almost has a similar plan that we saw in temple number 17, Sachi, has three shakha. Three shakha means there are three divisions of the door jambs, all right, which kind of have kind of foliage. First, we have the first one, and then there is a, especially these, it's not very clear. I'll show you in the next slide probably. These ghat pallavas. Ghat means a pot. And pallava is something that some kind of foliage which is emerging from these ghat pallavas. So this again is pointing towards the beginning of life, or the beginning of cosmos that we spoke about the water cosmology, and that's why it is considered to be very, very auspicious to be, to have been put, as the capitals of the pillars. Or sometimes you will find capitals also emerging from the Purna Ghatas or the Ghat Pallavas, etc. Right? Okay. And here, similar dots lines you will find on top sitting. Yeah, here this is a better picture. Now you can see very clearly. Look at this. This is the Ghat Pallav or the Purna Ghat that I have been talking about here. And similar lines that we saw in Sachi temple also are being seen here. Okay, and this is of course the Dwar Shakas here. And these are the kind of a denticles that we see on the upper, register of the Lalat Bim, which also in fact hark back to the wooden architecture. No, normally in wooden architecture, you will find these kind of wooden rafters, placed in front of each other. And this is, ceiling decoration. As soon as you enter in the mandap, on the ceiling, you will find this fully blown, beautiful lotus, very, very intricately carved here. Yeah. So lotus also has a very lot of significance in Indian thought for the purity or the dispassion that it stands for. Right. Okay, so now this is the plan of the Kankali Devi temple. So actually the very name Kankali Devi comes from some of the Chamunda sculptures which have been found inside this, and probably that is the reason that this name has been assigned to this particular temple here. All right. So again, we have these four pillars in the front, and this is the three shaka doorway here, a Lalat Bim. And if we look at, okay. This is the detail of the same pillar that I'm trying to show you. So these are the Chandrashalas or the Gavakshas that I spoke about in my last lecture. All right, in this shape, that's the very shape of this actually remind us about the Chandrashala. Okay, so that's why this is also, or a dormer window. Although we call it a window, as I told you last time, or the Ghanadwara, there is nothing that can pass through them. I told you it is the light from the Garbhagriha or the emanation which actually passes through these, Gandhwars or the Gavakshas, right? Okay. And here you can clearly see, look at these denticles on top, which actually clearly point towards the wooden architecture. Precursor to the whatever was being constructed earlier to stone architecture. So here you can see the three shakha doorway here very clearly here. And you can see two images on top, which actually almost look like the Sachi stupa yakshi that I spoke about earlier. So we have the two river goddesses, Ganga here on the Makar as her Vahan, and on the other side we have Yamuna. And sometimes you will also the tree which are assigned to these two deities. Normally, Ganga will be shown with the custard apple tree, right? So even the Shalbhanjikas that I spoke about in Sachi Stupa, they are normally, holding a branch of a tree, right? And in fact, when they touch the trunk of the tree with just one toe of their, foot, it is, it is said to bloom. Such is the power of these yakshis or the female power. And that's why they are, in fact, the very function of placing these deities, the female deities or the yakshis or the river goddesses, is also, it directly relates to the fertility aspect of these particular deities. Yeah. Okay. So this is, of course, the detail that I'm trying to show you. So first time it is on the doorway that these two deities are differentiated. There is a lot of naturalness in their poses. Ati Bhanga, you can see their body, many times it is flexed, very, very natural in their poses, I would say. And of course, there are two attending figures on two sides. And you can see very stylized makar here. The tail of, normally you will find, look at the scales here, and the tail is normally in a very, very floriated manner, right? That you can see. And here you can see the Amrulumbi here, the mango tree, and here you will clearly see the custard apple. Custard apple, what do you call it? Sharifa, no? Sharifa, that's the fruit. Or some call it sitafal also, I think.
Ma'am, you are on mute. Ma'am, you need to unmute.
Yeah, there. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's audible now.
Yeah, fine. So this is the Chamunda sculpture that I was talking about. Then you have the Anant Sheshai, Vishnu also in one of the niches. Yeah. And these are also some of the relief panels. So you can see the figure of Chamunda here, very, very totally emaciated body, pendentive breasts, totally, devoid of any kind of ornamentation here. You can see Vishnu here in his Varha avatar, Varha in our, or the boar incarnation here, you can see. And here very clearly you can see the Kalyan Sundar Murti, the marriage of Shiva and Parvati, that some of the bronze sculptures that I showed you last time. Yeah. And next, now we will talk about the Nachna Parvati temple, which again is a Shiva temple, which is near Panna. Panna is very, very close to Khajuraho temples. If you happen to visit, you must visit this temple also. Dedicated to Shiva and Sandhar Prasad. When I say Sandhar, means it has inner ambulatory. So if you come, this is the Garbhgraha here. These are the walls of the Garbhgraha, if you're following my cursor. And if you come out, this is the circumambulation or the Pradakshina Path, which is pretty much inside. The earlier temples, we didn't have this feature. So as we are progressing in time, there are more and more features which will get added to these temples, and they become more and more elaborate in terms of the different temple parts which which keep getting added to these later temples. And here you can also see some remnants of the second story, although the superstructure is totally lost or probably not there, but you can see there was some kind of a second story also here. And also you can see a window here, right? And which we which is kind of a latticed window. We call it a Jal Vatayana, right? And these are some of the, we can't see the Vediband molding here because Vediband moldings will be somewhere here. And of course, placed on a very, very high terrace or Jagati, that's what we call it, this high platform, and it can be reached by some few flight of steps here. Okay, these are all made of, these are all stone temples, I would say that. So the covered ambulatory, those temples which have, they are called the Sandhar Prasad. Prasad means the temple, all right. And those which do not have a covered circumambulatory, they are called the Nirandhar. These are some of the two technical terms I wanted you to know. So now look at this figure, the Kirti Mukha we spoke about in great detail here. The face, the mythical figure of a Kirti Mukha here, bulbous eyes, fangs, just the lower jaw is missing here. And some kind of vegetation is also emerging from here. And I told you that they are also supposed to be the deities of the Vanaspati, and also they ward off any kind of evil coming on the temple. And here you can see some of the the Gana figures, because it is a Shiva temple. In various poses you can see frolicking here in this register here. And this is the Jal Vatayan or the latticed window, which is there for some kind of air or light to get admitted inside. And this is the beautiful door or the entrance to the Garbhagriha that we are looking at. Okay. So you can see some flying Gandharvas here. And in the center, you have the figure of Shiva and Parvati. And as I told you last time, the figure on the lintel in the center, the Lalat Bim, normally will, tell us as to which deity this particular temple is, has the dedication to. Okay. So the Dwar Shakha has 4 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2. So, okay. And here you have the image of Shiva and Parvati, right? And this is, of course, the Mithuna figures you have here, and some of the Gana figures also here. From the navel, you will find a lot of vegetation emerging from their navels here, and the Dwarpala figures here and at the bottom. And we spoke about these Dwarpalas last time, the lower frame. Here you have because they are Shaiv Dwarpalas, so some of the attributes that they hold are also, see, they are holding a trident or a trishul here, right? And the hair also, if you look at the hair, almost in the same fashion, the Jatajut fashion, how you find Shiva's hair. Then these are the flying celestials or the Gandharvas, Ganga here, Yamuna here on the other side, right? Then these are some of the sculptures which are fine. So, in fact, the platform which is there, it is almost it is very, very rugged, and it almost gives you the feel of a mountainous, terrain. And these are some of the animals that you will find placed in those small niches on the platform. And this one, of course, is the Govardhandhari Krishna, which is actually not present in C2, but it is present in Bharat Kala Bhavan, but from this particular site. Bharat Kala Bhavan is in Banaras, the very famous museum there. Then these are some of the sculptures which are related to the episodes that we know from Ramayana, right? Okay. And there are quite a few episodes that we have. So Rama is calling out for help, or here we have Sugriva and Bali. Their fight is being shown. Ram and Lakshman, they are watching from little distance here, right? And these sculptures actually are not really present in their original position, but there is a small sculpture shed at the site. That's where all these are properly placed at the site. So in a way, you can call that small shed as the site museum also. Then here you have Ram aiming at Vali, right? Of course, Rama was, in fact, accused of killing Vali by, deceiving him. So that's another story that we will not get into that. And Sugriv here is shown with a huge garland here, as if, he's already been declared as the king of the monkeys or whatever. Then here we have Ravan, who has, disguised himself as a hermit, and he has entered, and Sita has come out in, for the alms that Ravan was asking for. So I want you to look at the figures here, the rotundity, the smoothness of the curves. There is no, I would say, there is no folkishness in these sculptures. Very, very refined, I would say that. So in this sculpture, you can see Hanuman sitting here at the base, meeting Ram and Lakshman, again present at that sculpture shed only, not inside the temple. And this is the Bhumra temple, which is near Satna. So all these temples are primarily inside Madhya Pradesh, even, okay, very, very close to each other, right? So Bhumra again is a Shiva temple. So basically there are three entrances. If you look at this uh, ground plan here, this is the main shrine here. And there was, originally there were these sub-shrines here. But of course now they are all, both of them are lost. And three Shakha doorway, you can see here, three Shakha doorway. The sculptural plan of this temple is very, very highly developed. Shiva and his family, Surya, Mahishasur Mardini, Chandrashalas have Shiva in dancing form, etc., etc. On the Lalat Bimb here, if you see closely, there is a bust of Shiva, very with the third eye also. I'll show you a detail also of this. And flying Gandharvas here, you can see the flying celestials here, almost, paying homage to Shiva here. Okay, and the sanctum inside, in fact, it is interesting that it still has an Ekmukhi Linga. Ekmukhi Linga means there is a Linga and there is a face of Shiva also, representing both the Vyakta and Avyakta forms. Vyakta means manifested, and Avyakta, which is the Linga, that's called the unmanifested. Okay. And the basal moldings also here that we will be talking about very shortly. These are also highly developed. These are called the Vedibandh moldings or the Adhishtan moldings. And of course, it is again placed on a very, very high Jagati or a platform. And okay, let's see some more slides, then we'll get better. So this is actually a very, very old picture, almost 100 years old, 1919. So you can see the bust of Shiva here very, very clearly. And look at his hair. They are falling on his shoulder in a very, very stylized manner, these hair curls that you have, the flying Gandharvas or the Vidyadhars that you have. The Shri Vriksha here, the auspicious Vriksha, sometimes you will find that as part of the door jamb also sometimes. And you will have a Ganga Yamuna figure here at the base. So typical features of the Gupta temple that you will find. And in fact, a lot of broken, parts of this temple have been found in the premises. And from there, we gather that the sculptural plan of this temple was highly, highly evolved. And these are, of course, the details of the two figures, Ganga and Yamuna. Interestingly, it is on this side you have Ganga here. Normally, it is on the other side. And on this side, you have Yamuna figure on a Kachapa or the tortoise. So, in fact, the fallen fragments, they show a lot of Gana figures. There are three types of those, Chaitya or the Gavaksha arches having gods inside. And also there are door frames which are found, probably which belong to those two subsidiary shrines which are no longer present. Okay. So though this temple is very, very poorly preserved, but it is much, much larger and more developed, I would say, and in terms of the ornamentation and the figural repertoire of the earlier temples that we saw, the Nachna or the Kankali Dev temple, etc. So this is the beautiful Ekmukhi Linga that we have inside the Garbhagriha, and which in fact some devotees still come and they will offer some kind of water or flowers, etc. As you can see, some water trickling down this image also. Okay. So now here you can see typical beauty of a Gupta sculpture, very, very serene, sublime, inward looking, and arched brows, very heavy-lidded eyes you can see, full lips, very, very sensuous looking. You have the third eye of the Shiva here, and Jata Jut or the matted hair, but again very, very stylized, very neatly kept, and the hair curls falling on the shoulders here, different ornaments, the Ekavali you can see here, and other, the torque kind of, neck piece that he's wearing here. So this actually, and there's a, crescent moon you can see on top here, right? So looking at this, here, this you can see stylized, the hair curls. That's what I meant. Normally, you will not find so neatly placed hair curls with Shiva. So this is stylized or Natyadharmi, right? Okay. And these are some of the sculptures that have been found on the, inside the premises here. So this is the Gavaksha or the Chandrashala that we have been talking about. And inside this, there are divinities, right? Inside these, or they are also called dormer windows. So this, of course, is the sculpture of Surya. So Surya's iconography is normally, he's holding 2 lotus flowers in his 2 hands. And he would also be wearing these high shoes. You know how you have boots nowadays. Similar boots you will find in Surya's iconography. Always he would be shown in this. And also he is wearing a kind of a kilt. Here, look at this dress here. And some kind of upper garment also. So this is also in temple terms, we also call it Uditya Vesha, which means something that has come from the northwest. That's where actually the worship of Surya was already, prevalent. The Greco-Roman art, which was produced at that time, the earlier to Gupta period, and this was the iconography of Surya. And in fact, this is how Indian art or Surya in Indian art has also got influence with these boots, because normally we find most of the deities, we will find they are barefooted. But in case of Surya, you will always find him wearing these boots. And of course, the 2 attendants of Surya are the male attendants are the Pingal, right? Normally, you will find him with pen and an ink pot, and Dandin with the sword and shield he is normally carrying. Okay, because that Pingal is normally, making all kinds of records. So normally you will always find him with a pen and an ink pot. And this figure is probably that of Indra sitting in this 2 legs in a pendentive or the, European style that he's sitting with the 2 attendants. This, in fact, this sculpture is not at the site. This is in Indian Museum, Kolkata, right? If you happen to visit there, you can see this. Then these are some more beautiful sculptures we have. So this is the sculpture of Yama, which is in a loose Chandrashala, which was found at the site and which is now in Allahabad Museum. So legs are, of course, again in the same fashion that we saw in the last slide of Indra, and 2 attending figures, the Chitragupt and Kala. These are the 2 attending figures of Yama here, and he's holding a long staff in his hand. Okay. In fact, this particular iconography is very well explained in Vishnu Dharmottar Puran also. And this is a very beautiful sculpture of Mahishasura-Mardini, where she's shown in this act of killing the Mahisha. Here she's holding him by the tail. And here, of course, he's totally shown in his zoomorphic form, I would say, here, right? The animal form here. You can see the trident almost piercing through the flesh of the Mahishasura here. Then I showed you this, the Vediband moldings earlier in the picture. So these are basically the decorations or the different parts of the base of the temple. Why do we call it Vediband? Because it kind of, encloses the Vedi. That's where the Garbhagriha, the floor of the Garbhagriha starts. And because that we had said that it is almost equivalent to the Vedic altar, the Vedi. And that's why these moldings are called the Vediband moldings. So the bottom one is called the Khura, the Kumbha, the Kalash, and the interval between these 2 is called the Antarpat, and this is the Kapotpalli. Kapot is pigeon, kabutar jisko kehte hain. So Kapotpalli is nothing but, if you see, this is and Seema Eve like this. So normally you will find in this place, normally a lot of pigeons will come and, they will rest here. And sometimes you will have two Kapotpallis, one on top of the other. And in the interval, you will also find a lot of pigeons coming and resting. And that's why this particular shape is called Kapotpalli. So in fact, this set of moldings, the Kurkam, Kalash, Antarpat, Kapotpalli, you will find in all the temples across India with lot of, modifications or lot of extra ornamentation that you will find. But the basic moldings, they almost remain the same. They can be added more moldings also besides these in the later temples. Okay. So the size may vary with the, from one region to the other. So it's very important for us to understand the decoration of the base of the temple for that matter. Okay. Now we saw all the stone temples so far. We are looking at a brick temple at Bhitargaon, which is near Kanpur. Middle of 5th century now we have reached, built of brick and terracotta. Very, very lofty pyramidal shikhar with diminishing tiers. These are the different tiers or levels of the shikhar, and it is rising into the sky in a diminishing fashion. And this is for the first time we are looking at some, of course, earlier temples may have had some kind of superstructure or shikhar, but we have not, they have not been, they are not preserved as such, or we don't get to see them in situ anymore. But this is one temple, although highly restored temple, I would say, by Archaeological Survey of India. And some people also claim that probably the originality of the temple has been lost with so much of restoration. However, still, if you visit this temple, very, very beautiful to look at. And I want you to look at this structure here. This is the true arch. So it is often, Indian architecture is often accused of this, that we never knew how to make an arch. In fact, I showed you an arch in the Lomas Rishi cave also, the very first, the Mauryan period. Yeah, that was one arch that early in the, in 3rd century BC I was talking about. And now this in brick structure, again, we have the presence of a true arch where you have a keystone in the center. So normally Indian architecture, we say that it is, built on the trabeate pattern. Most of the temples we saw, the dwar shakhas are there and the lintel is there, the T-shaped. That's how the, entire building is made up. It rests on rather. And most of the Islamic buildings are made up in this fashion, in the, in the manner of, first they will make a true arch. And that's what it actually, the keystone, which transfers the weight of the superstructure to the adjoining walls, right? Okay, so this is what it is. And it is Triratha with prominent Bhadra on 3 sides. Now I'm talking about little technical terms. Somebody had asked me the Pancharatha temple, last time. So I want to explain here. I'm calling it a Triratha, not a Pancharatha. So I had told you in brief the projections of the Garbhagriha wall here, right? So that's what I say. If I say Triratha, means there are 3 projections. One is, of course, the central big niche that you will see. I'm going to show you. And these are the Karna niches, or the corner ones. Corner one, or the Karna Bhadras also they are called. So on each side you can see one in the center and one projection on the side, so in the corner. So how many projections are we having, or the niches? So 3 projections, so that's why we are calling it a Triratha temple. And the main mandap here, you can see the square form. It is connected to the outer Mukh mandap with a long passage, which we had called as vestibule or antaral here, right? And again, it is placed on a high platform here. This is the boundary wall, which I don't, I don't recall if it was the original structure or made later. And it can be approached, the main Garbhagriha can be approached through this flight of steps here, right? So this is the platform which is there. So the Jangha walls, this is the Jangha portion. This has the Bhadra and the Karnbhadra niches, or the corner offsets on each side. It's very important for you to know. So as the offsets or the projections, they increase on the walls, you will get more and more surface area for the sculptures to, be placed on that, because of these offsets. And because of these offsets also, the square plan of the Garbhagriha almost starts looking like a star here, right? Because of these offsets that you have on these three Garbhagriha walls. This is very important for you to know. So this, of course, is the very, very old picture, 1878 picture, which I'm trying to show you, almost in a very, very dilapidated condition that it is. And from here, of course, what we saw in the last picture, after the restoration, this is how it looks today. So these terracotta sculptures you will find here in the on the central projections. So this is the central projection, and these are the corner projections of the wall. This is what I meant. The big one in the center and the two in the corners. And very, very well modeled muscular sculptures you will find of these divinities. And there are different ones, Gajantaka, then Ganesh, seated Uma Maheshwari, Vishnu killing Madhu and Kaitab, Durga killing, Shumbha and Nishumba, Vasudev Krishna, in Balram in the, other side, on the north side, etc., etc. And yeah, you can see sculptures here also, the birds and some kind of animal life here. So these are again what we saw, the Kapotpalli on the Vedibandh. So now you have these two kapotas, this kind of structure here, 1 and 2, and in between again you have this complete frieze of sculptures. Yeah, very, very beautiful. And you can have two kinds of Chandrashalas here, the rectangle one and almost the round or the oval one here. Yeah. So now you can see very clearly, this is what I wanted you to see. So this is of course the Jangha portion here. Yeah. And Jangha is kind of terminating into a very, very recessed fashion in smaller these Chandrashalas and terracotta, these sculptures are there in between we saw, right? And again, you will see these Ghat Pallavas here on the pillars. Yeah. So these are some of the, I wanted you to enjoy these sculptures. So Gajantaka Shiva, I had told you that Shiva, kills the elephant demon and he, wears the skin of the demon. Here you can see he's stretching the skin of the demon. Yeah. Then this is Krishna slaying Vrishabhasura. The Asur in the form of a bull rather. Yeah. And here you can, you have to know the iconography to recognize. So here you can see Vishnu here, two legs on the two sides, riding his mount, Garuda here in the center, in the human form here, probably. Just the face is in the bird form. Okay. And this one is, of course, the Vishnu killing two demons, Madhu and Kaitab, and we will also talk about these two demons again. This, of course, we can easily recognize the Varaha avatar of Vishnu. This is Krishna and Balrama sitting. So how do we recognize Balram here? Normally, Balram will also be shown with a serpent hood at the back, okay, because he's also considered to be another incarnation of Adishesh. So that's where sometimes you will have this serpent hood, or he will be holding a plowshare, or that's why we call him Haldar also, no? He's holding a hull, or sometimes he would be holding a wine glass, right? So this is the iconography of Balram. Now, with this, we will talk about the most developed temple that we have from Gupta period, the Vishnu temple, or it is also called the Dashavtar temple near Lalitpur, in Jhansi district, with the very, very rudimentary, I would say, proto kind of Nagar Shikhar that you see here on top. In fact, it almost marks the terminal stage of Gupta architecture, right? And you have the molded platform, which is very, very richly embellished. We will see that with sculptural panels here on all the three sides, the highly elaborate door jambs, the Lalat bimb here, and of course, some sculptures here too, and some sculptures on this platform, and here also on the Vedi Bandh also there are some few niches which are there. Okay. Right. So let's look at this. It's very important for all of us to understand a temple by looking at the ground plan, right? Immediately you will know what kind of temple it is. The very structure, it gets registered in your mind when you look at the ground plan or the elevation of the temple. So this is, of course, the temple today, how we find it, right? Of course, it is in much, much little better condition than this. This is how it was found I would say few years back. Yeah. Okay. So this is, it is imagined, or it is it's a imaginary construction of this particular temple as to how it may have looked in its, glorious days, right? With these. So now somebody was saying Panchayatan, they were confusing Panch Ratha temple with Panchayatan temple. Rathas I have already explained to you. Rathas are the offsets or the projections on the Garbhagriha, which are these, in the center, like how you see here, the three on three walls, yeah, the west-facing temple. And do you see these 4 subsidiary shrines? These are and that's why it's called the Panchayatan temple, because there are 4 subsidiary shrines and the main shrine is in the center. And of course, on a very, very high Jagati, this is Jagati, the platform on which the main temple is situated, and it can be reached by these multiple staircases. And the bottom, this structure, this is almost in the shape of a moon, crescent moon. So what do we call it? A Chandrashila. So do not confuse Chandrashala with Chandrashila. Shila means stone. So this is called the Chandrashila at the base. Normally you will find at the threshold also, when you are entering into the Garbhagriha, sometimes you will find this kind of a stone which is laid out, in the vestibule or the antaral. And so here at every, and it is also called a Sarvot Bhadra. Sarvot means from all sides, Sarv, all sides. And Bhadra means, Bhadra is also to see, and it is also auspicious. So any structure which is auspicious to see from all 4 sides. So that kind of structure we will call as Sarvot Bhadra. So then now looking at all this, we have learnt many things. So this is a Panchayatan temple. There are these Rathika bimbs on all the 3 walls. Okay. So 1 niche on each side, and there are 4 subsidiary shrines. Here, of course, right now they are not present, none of them, but just their, base is present, by way of which we can conclude or infer that probably at some point there was a subsidiary shrine. There were these 4 subsidiary shrines in the 4 corners. Okay. and also from the architectural fragments which have been found, including lot of amlakas and numerous ornate chandrashalas or the gavakshas and large, large gavaksha arches which are lying loose at the side. That's how we infer that the shikhar had a stepped pyramidal design, right? Because I showed you in a highly developed temple, every level will have a miniature shikhar. We call them the minor shikhars, and which will be topped with an amlaka and a small stupi. And this is how, in a cascading way, the entire shikhar rises. No, okay. So, because of the presence of these small fragments which we have found on the site, so a lot of art historians have inferred this, that probably the shikhar was in that shape already, which actually is a precursor to the highly developed Shekhri shikhar that we have in the Nagar temple today. Okay. So yeah, here you can see very beautifully. This is how it looks today after the restoration. So this is the moonstone or the Chandrashila here at the base. Yeah. And these are the bases of the 4 subsidiary shrines in 4 cardinal direction. 1, 2, and these 4, one this side. And this is although it is, the entrance is from all 4 sides, but still the main doorway is on the west side. So this is the main entrance. We are looking at the back side of the temple. And these are, as I had mentioned earlier, these are the ghandwaras or the niches. We say ghandwar means because they are solid, they are not doors, but because the very, effulgent light which is emanating from the deity inside the garbhagriha through these niches and through the other aspects of the main deity which is present inside the garbhagriha. Now here it is a very even better picture this is. And now we can also see some of the sculptures here which are present. And look at these. These are the chandrashalas or the gavakshas. So likewise, the shikhar must be rising in the, different registers of these chandrashalas. I showed you the very complicated mesh that was formed on the shikhar by way of using this particular unit of gavakshas. Yeah. Okay. These are some of the sculptures here. So I told you, as you progress, the temple has more and more, better and better sculptural plan. So even the Vedibandh moldings will also have some kind of sculptures here, right? So here you can see these two, Ananda and Yashoda with 2 children in their arms here, you can see very, very clearly. So the stories from Bhagavad Puran or Mahabharat or Ramayana and any of these epics were very, very common to be, which were placed on these, on temple walls. Okay. So in fact, one of the 4 pieces which are still in situ in Devgarh temple, here on the face of the terrace. Okay. So here you can see again some scene, if you can recognize this. You have Ram, Lakshman and Sita in the center, and Lakshman is almost, he's holding the, tuft of hair of Shurpankha, and he's almost ready to chop off the nose of Shurpankha for all the, all the wrong advances that she was trying to make at both the brothers here. Okay. Then, of course, you have these females dancing group. So another myth that we want to burst is, it is actually all these British constructs that, they said that Indians didn't know how, Indians did not wear any, stitched clothing till the Mughals came or the, Islamic rulers came into India. But that's not true. Now, we are talking about Gupta period, and now you can look at these dancers. They are all wearing some kind of, tight trousers and tunic kind of garment on top, right? So that's also something that we all need to be wary of. Okay. So door frame of Vishnu temple, Devgarh. Panch Shakha. So we started with 3 Shakha, 4 Shakhas. Now we have Panch Shakha door frame of Vishnu temple. So innermost, of course, we have the Gana figures here. I think I've shown you the detail here. You can see the detail here. This is the innermost. And then you have the rosettes here. You can see these small, small flowers. These we will call as rosettes. These are the rosettes. Then you have the Mithun figures here. Gana couples also here, right? And also, very important, I want you to note, look at this figure. Okay, so these are the large Chandrashalas, and this, harks back to the top of the Shikhar, the Amlaka, and the Stupi, which means, looking at this, we know that these features of temple architecture were already in place by the time these particular temples of Gupta period were built. And many a times we will find that I showed you the Vedis also of the Sachi Stupa that was used as a decorative element. Similarly, the Shikhar element of the temple is being used as a decoration of the Dwar Shakha here. It definitely gives us the evidence of the Nagar Shikhar. Okay. And then, of course, we have this is the Shri Vriksha pattern on the outermost Dwar Shakha that we have. And then, of course, we will have the Vaishnav Dwarpalas here. And in fact, the placement of the river goddesses was still very tentative. Sometimes we find them at the base, sometimes we find them at the top. So again, now you will find the 2 river goddesses have gone up here, the Ganga and Yamuna here. And on the lintel, what do we find? Vishnu seated on the Sheshnag here. And the two different avatars of Vishnu, the Vaman avatar and the Narsingha avatar, are also flanked. They are flanking the main deity in the center. So by looking at this, we know that the temple is dedicated to Vishnu. And here again, you will find the Chandrashalas or the Gavakshas. So they, form a very, very beautiful decorative pattern on temple walls, right? Yeah. These are some of the details I wanted to show you. So here, one river goddess here, Ganga, and Jamuna is on top. And now I will also show you, this is the base of the Dwarshaka, the Dwarpalas with their attendants. Yeah. And this is, of course, the top part, the Lalat. And this is the Lalat, the icon or the image. So on this Lalat Bimb has the Vishnu figure. You have the serpenthood of Anant, and on the coils of normally you will find him, that's the Shayan Murti, where Vishnu is shown in his yogic sleep. But here he is seated on the coils of Anant Shesh. And this is Narsimha you will find. And the Vaman. Vaman is normally a dwarf figure. If you, you can Google all these stories, very, very easily available. If you try to read what are the stories related to the 10 incarnations of Vishnu or the Dashavatars. This is a beautiful one. Now you can see very, very clearly. Okay, so now we can talk a little bit about the 3 niches. And this actually is almost the epitome of Gupta, sculptures. Such very, very finely carved stone sculptures you will find on the walls. So since this is a west-facing temple, this is the main entrance here. So the circumambulation will start from here. Normally, we do it in clockwise direction. No, when we enter the temple, this is how we go around. But when the temple is east-facing, right? Because this temple is west-facing, we start like this. So this is if this is west, then this is the southern niche. So in the southern niche, you find the Anant Sheshai Vishnu seated on lying on the Ananta Nag here. And the first this is the pilaster that I was talking about, an engaged pillar. The back side is engaged with the wall. So here in the niche, you will find Ganesh, and this side you will find Mahishasur-Mardini. In later temples, what will happen on this wall, you will have Ganesh figure, and Mahishasur-Mardini will come right at the end, at the other end of the wall. All right. Okay, so let's look at some detail of this. So this is, of course, the detail of the Ganesh figure, typical iconography that we associate a Ganesh with even today. The modak in his hand in a bowl here, the battle axe, the akshmal here, and this beautiful Ghat Pallav here, and with a Kirti Mukha on the top. Now you can see how, ferocious looking this creature is, bulbous eyes, as if, it's, full of anger, flared nostrils, fangs, but still floriated, some vegetation is emerging out of its mouth also. So this actually, the figures on this are, as I said, is the climax of the Gupta art. Now here you can see very, very clearly. So here you have Vishnu. Look at the modeling, the volume, the softness of although, you don't find it is done in stone, because such, beautiful curving lines you have in the stone here. And this is the Kirit Mukut that Vishnu is wearing, the one mal, or the Vajanti mal that he's normally shown to be wearing here, and some of the attending figures here. And these 6 figures here, one is a woman here and 5 males. So as Indians, we are, very quick to assign this kind of a sculptural, frieze into 5 Pandavas and Draupadi. Wherever, anywhere in India, if you will find 5 men and a woman, we will say these are 5 Pandavas and one, their wife, Draupadi. But it is not true, not always that is the case, and not that is depicted on temple walls. So sometimes we all know Vishnu's 4 attributes, Shankh, Chakra, Gada, Padma. So sometimes in place of Padma, he is also shown to be, he's also, he also holds a sword, right? And they are also shown, these 4 attributes are also shown in the form of, in a personified form, I would say that. So the story is that when Vishnu was sleeping in his, he was having this yogic sleep, the 2 demons, the Madhu and Ketab, they emerged from the earwax of Vishnu, and they started to, create havoc. And that's when, I didn't tell you who's the female here, right? So the female is the Gada Devi. So the Gada is shown in always shown in a feminine form, right? So these 3 are the 1, 2, 3 are the other Ayudhas, and this is Gada Devi, and these 2 are the 2 demons, Madhu and Ketab here. Although, their physiognomy or the facial structure or their, entire structure, the physical structure does not indicate that they are the demons, because we already learnt about this as to how many talas the demons should be, much, taller than the normal gods also, or the human beings also. But this is what it is, right? So all the 4 Ayudhas, 1, 2, 3, 4, they are busy. In fact, they have defeated the 2 demons here, Madhu and Ketab here. Okay. Now from here you can, enjoy the beauty and look at the detailing of all the ornaments that Vishnu is shown to be wearing here. This is another. So on top of this panel, of course, you find all the different devas. I did not show you. The Indra is there, Kartikeya on peacock is there, Brahma on swan, and here you have Shiva and Parvati on Nandi. So this is on the top. Now, I think here you can see some part of it. Here you can see. है ना? Okay. And this is the second niche at the back. This is the eastern wall of the temple. So this is just one Ratha is there, or one, Bhadra is there on each wall, right? So just, okay. And the earlier temple I showed you, there was one here, and one here. And that's why we called it a Tri-Ratha. Okay, here only one Ratha is there on each wall. That is there. Okay. So this is the sculpture of Nar and Narayan, that they are, performing austerities and penance in the Himalayas. So Nar Narayan, in fact, is the Hindu deity pair, which actually dwells in the hills in the Badrinath. And that's where, you find the temple also, the Badrinath temple here. In fact, working for the preservation or for the dharma or the righteousness. So in the concept of Nar Narayan, the human Nara is the eternal companion of the divine Narayan. And also in Hindu epic Mahabharata, identifies God Krishna as the Narayan, of course, and Avatar or Vishnu, and with Arjun as the, who's the chief hero of the epic, with Nara. Okay. So, in fact, the legend of Nar Narayan is also told in the scripture Bhagavad Puran. So, and this is what I said, that the pair normally dwells in the region of Badri. Okay. So there is a very interesting story which is, related to when they are performing tapas. So we normally find in Indian mythology that whenever anybody is performing, huge penance or tapas, Indra gets, very, kind of disturbed as to somebody's out to overtake, his throne. So he kinds of sends lot of, heavenly beauties to, disturb the kind of penance that they were performing. So, of course, Vishnu, without, paying any attention to these, beautiful women, he, plucks a flower, and with the juice of that flower, in fact, he draws a female figure on his jangha or uru, and from there, emerges a very, very beautiful maiden or a lady. Here you can see her flying away in the sky, and she was so beautiful that all the other women felt very, very ashamed of themselves. And because she was produced from the uru of Vishnu, she was named as Urvashi, or through the thigh, rather. Okay, this is what the story is about here. I'm sorry, this is not such a great picture. So here, I can show you this one now. So this is the north side niche, which has a depiction of Gajendra Moksha. So Gajendra was of course, king of the elephants. And at one time when he goes to a pond, there's a water demon. So the story actually talks about a crocodile, which kind of clutches the feet of the elephant. But here in this particular panel, you have the Naga, and his companion here, the Nagini. They are shown to be the devils who have kind of, with the help of their coils, they have kind of strangled the elephant. And that's when he remembers Vishnu, and Vishnu appears seated on Garun here to save the Gajendra. And that's how the story goes, the Gajendra Moksha. So I just wanted you to see this particular image. There's a very, very beautiful modeling here that you will see. Then some more sculptures we can quickly go through. The Vishnu sculpture from Gupta period. Then the famous this iron pillar that we find in the Qutub complex is also said to be has been brought from Udaygiri. In fact, that's where we have this famous Varha cave in the anthropomorphic form, the Varha sculpture of Vishnu here. Very. So this is actually the, let me say, this is the Tarjini Mudra, huh? When we are trying to defy somebody, huh? Like this, you are putting your hand on your uh, waist, like this, Tarjini, huh? Or Katyavalambit. On the Kati, you are placing your hand like this. This is the Vishnu temple at Iran. And this is, of course, a completely zoomorphic form of Vishnu that we see, the boar incarnation, where he is shown rescuing Bhudevi from the, netherworld or the Rasatal, where, the Hiranyaksha, the demon, had kind of dragged the entire earth to the netherworld. Yeah. And these are some of the beautiful Ekmukh lingas that we find. This one, of course, is from Udaygiri, the same cave that we spoke about, same place. And this one, of course, is from Kho. This is another one. Look at, again, the physiognomy, the Ekavli that he's wearing, the Makar Kundal in his ears, the stylized hair curls, the crescent moon. Very, very beautiful. Look at this one here. This is another one from Uchara, Ekmukhi Linga. This is. So Shiva worship was pretty much prevalent, but you will find more Vishnu sculptures from Gupta period. So here we spoke about the 4 vyuhas of Vishnu last time, no? The Vasudev, the Shankarshan, Pradyuman, Anirudh. So here you can see 3 aspects here, and one, of course, is at the back, which is not seen here. This is another. So this red mottled stone is typical feature of the sculptures from Mathura region. And this one is from Sarnath, the buff color, the pink, which comes from the Chunar area, which is close to Sarnath. Okay. So these 2 schools were very, very highly developed during Gupta period. Of course, the Kushan period also, there are a lot of Mathura sculptures we find in the same red mottled. Mottled, when I say, there are a lot of white spots on the red color stone. Okay. So this is, of course, from Mathura school, and this is from Sarnath. Then this is, of course, Mother Goddess figure that we have from Thanesar Mahadev temple near Udaipur. And it has a lot of influence of Gandharan, art, which was the other part of the Kushan Empire on the northwest side. So the iconography of a Mother Goddess will be, she will always be shown with a small child normally, and her, the the reproductive organs are very, very well, exhibited in most of the sculptures. Then this is the 7-headed Shiva with Gana figures, very famous, which was found from Parel. Parel is that area in Mumbai. Right now, this is in Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya, the old Prince of Wales Museum in Bombay. And this is a very beautiful terracotta sculpture that you can see. Here Krishna is, the child Krishna is kind of killing the horse demon, Keshi here. So it will be, worthwhile for us to learn about these different, stories. Only then can you appreciate the temple architecture more so, and the very placement of these images also you will understand in a better way. And this, of course, I had shown you earlier also, the very famous Ganga Yamuna terracotta figures, which were part of the temple from Ahichadra, the terracotta temple. These are, of course, part of the National Museum collection here. And look at the folds of the dhoti here, very, very stylized here. And the water pot is also one attribute that you will find most of the time river goddesses are carrying. That also because they are the goddesses of water. So it is but natural that probably they are carrying the nectar of life or the amrit in this particular pot. So water also is, equated to the elixir of life, for that matter, because entire life depends on water, you know. And here, of course, the attendants are also wearing almost the same costume, but of course, devoid of not as much ornamentation or the jewelry that these two goddesses are shown to be wearing. These are two more terracotta figures we have. This is a terracotta figure of Shiva here, and this is that of Parvati from Ahicharya. So it's not only art and religion or literature. The fashions of Gupta period were also, you know, at their peak. Look at the stylized hair, the curls, and the back. You know, there is an ornament here, which is, you know, also being placed at the, like as a small bun was made at the back. So a lot of, when you look at these sculptures, you will find that the Gupta women, in fact, you will find them in all kinds of hairstyles also. That's also another very, very typical feature of Gupta art. Okay. So I think with this, yeah, we will conclude this today's session. And yes, we will, yeah. Thank you very much for being so patient.
मैडम को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने गागर में सागर वस्तुता भर दिया है और भारत का जो स्वर्णकाल कहा जाता है उसको सिद्ध कर दिया है। ऐसा लगता है कि वो पत्थर भी बोल रहे थे जब आप उनको इतने सूक्ष्म रूप से दिखाते हैं, इतने पास में दिखाते हैं, जबकि हम लोग बड़े मंदिरों में दर्शन करने जाते हैं तो इतने ध्यान से और इतनी समझ हम लोगों को नहीं हो पाती है। तो इसके पहले आप एक बार चैट बॉक्स में नजर डाल लीजिए जब तक मैं अगले उसकी सूचना दे रहा हूं कि अगला जो हमारा व्याख्यान होगा मैडम का वो कश्मीर और हिमाचल रीजन के टेम्पल्स पर बहुत ही उपयोगी होगा, क्योंकि आज हम बहुत सारा जो अंश है कश्मीर का वो खो भी चुके हैं, दूसरे देश में चला गया है, लेकिन हमारा जो गौरव गाथा है वो हम उसको सुनेंगे। और इसके पहले कि हम इस पूरे कार्यक्रम के सूत्रधार जो हैं डॉक्टर जेबी शाह, उनके प्रति भी हमको कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करना चाहिए। संकल्पना है जिनकी इस तरह के कार्यक्रम को समाज को देने के लिए, तो उनके प्रति हम कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करते हैं। अपने जो हमारे चारों पुण्यार्जक हैं, श्री राजकुमार जी ओसवाल, श्री निर्मल भोगीलाल जी मुंबई, श्री धनेश जी की स्मृति में उनका परिवार और मातु श्री राजकुमारी सुवीर चंद जी का परिवार के प्रति भी कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करते हैं। मैडम अगर आप कोई समझते हैं तो किसी क्वेश्चन का उत्तर।
Sure. So there is a question, isn't there a European influence in mother and child sculpture? Definitely. I already spoke about it. Gandharan, Greco-Roman influences can be clearly seen in that sculpture. Yeah, definitely. And what else? It's very true. Yes, Europeans at this time were trying hard in forests like hunters to meet both ends meet. And when, India was the torchbearer in art architecture. Very true. Very, very true. So in fact, it is true. There is a true incidence. I was at a conference and somebody was trying to establish how old the European art was and trying to establish its antiquity. And that's what I had to say, that when you all were, we were doing the alpana or the floor decorations when you all were living on trees at that time. So definitely this is very, very true. Yes. Okay. Then somebody has equated the Pallava sculptures to the Gupta sculptures. So just on the outset, when you look at the elongated limbs that you see, the arms and the legs, sometimes you find, but the kind of, softness that you find in Gupta sculptures are definitely not present in the Pallava group of sculptures, which we will see, of course. We will address that as we come to the Pallava period of temples of Pallava period. Yeah.
मैम को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, क्योंकि हमको आगे भी आपको सुनते रहना है और जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी कहा कि सिर्फ यह स्थापत्य कला नहीं है, हमारा पुराण, इतिहास और भारत का गौरव भी प्रतिपादन करने वाला है। तो आप लोग 11 तारीख का इंतजार करेंगे। 11 फरवरी को हम लोग काश्मीर और हिमाचल रीजन के मंदिरों के दर्शन भी करेंगे और उसका सूक्ष्म ज्ञान करेंगे। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ सभी श्रोताओं को हम धन्यवाद देते हैं, और जो हमारे इसमें चर्चा में भी भाग लेते हैं उनके प्रति भी हम कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करते हैं, और मैं इनके प्रति पुनः धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करते हैं अपनी संस्था की ओर से। धन्यवाद सभी को। जय जिनेंद्र सभी को। जीतू भाई आ गए हैं, अगर आप बोलना चाहें थोड़ा सा।
यस यस यस।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पवन जी, आपने आज गुप्त काल के जो स्थापत्य शिल्प कला का जो परिचय कराया, अद्भुत था। आपने अलग अलग पिक्चर्स बता करके उस समय जो हमारी कला इतनी शिखर पर पहुंची हुई थी, प्रत्येक शिल्प में आपने वो दिखाया। हम आपके बहुत ही आभारी हैं, और हम अगले व्याख्यान के, अगले आपके प्रवचन की प्रतीक्षा करेंगे, जिसमें आप बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण कश्मीर आदि प्रदेश की शिल्प कला पर आप बोलने वाले हैं। मैं पुनः सबको धन्यवाद देता हूं, और हमारे डायरेक्टर विजय कुमार जैन जी और पवन जी को मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं।
थैंक यू सर।
सभी को जय जिनेंद्र, सभी को जय जिनेंद्र, और अगले हम लोग 11 तारीख को शनिवार को फिर मिलेंगे इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ। जय जिनेंद्र।
जय जिनेंद्र।